Good morning, everybody. Keeper Eric here. I'm going to get started with this morning's live chat. Keeper Grace will be here in just a moment, but today we're talking about our chicks that we hatched. If you remember last week, we candled the eggs. We looked inside and we saw there were babies developing. And then starting Saturday, the chicks started hatching. So I only brought 3. Right now we've got 7 chicks total. And then we've got 4 more eggs in here that are getting ready to hatch. That one's rolling. The chick inside is rolling around. I don't know if you guys can see that. And then if we get a different angle, we can look down. See how that egg is starting to get broken away? The chick is in there. You can see him rolling around too. He's pecking through that shell, and he'll be out probably within an hour or two. So all 4 of these remaining eggs have chicks in them that are getting ready to peck out. Wow, that one's really rolling. And that one's moved. They're all moving quite a bit. So maybe we'll be lucky and they'll start hatching while we're sitting here talking. So here are 3 of the chicks that hatched out. We haven't given them any names yet. We were going to wait and see how many we had. And if you look at them all, they all have little furry, well, not furry, whoops, we went to the bathroom. Feathery little legs. There's the other one. And these are all the dad for all of these is a Brahma rooster. He is our only male, so we know that he's the dad. There's no other possibilities. And so what Brahmas have, even when they grow up, is feathers on their legs. And since he's the dad, despite what the moms are, all of the babies are going to have those little, we call them leg warmers, just because it's the dominant trait when you compare that to what the moms bring. One of the moms is a Brahma as well, a light Brahma. And then the other moms are well summers and goodness, now I can't remember the other one, the other breed. So that's why all the chicks look a little different, because they all have different moms. So we think that this dark one here, we think he or she is a Brahma, because they kind of have that dark pattern when they hatch, and then they turn mostly white as they get bigger. And we think that this one here is a well summer because they have that brown stripe down their head. If you guys have questions, go ahead and shout them out. I mean, I think it's fun enough just to watch these little chicks hop around. Make sure they don't hop off the table here. When chicks are born, it's hard for most people to tell which sex they are. There are a couple different species that it's really easy to tell what sex based on some of their characteristics as chicks, coloration, or let's see, yeah, mostly patterns on their bodies. So for right now, it's hard for us. We're not experts. So we don't know what sex they are. And we're not real good at sexing. We're not going to know until they start to crow if they're roosters. And that's usually in, let's see, it's May. So it'll be about 3 months from now that they'll start crowing. They do not have names yet, Amanda. We have not named it. We're kind of waiting to see how many we had. And all the names we have are going to have to be have to work with both sexes. We're not going to be able to, can't give them all boy names or girl names not knowing what they're going to be. So if you have any suggestions, we're always open. Breeds. All of the breeds that we have here at the zoo, Beth, are endangered, or what we call heritage breeds. And that's just goes along with the theme of our children's zoo. All of the animals we have in the children's zoo are heritage breeds. So the San Clemente Island goats, as well as the Randall lineback cow, they're all endangered breeds of farm animals. Which, if you've missed some of our previous talks, back in 200 years ago, different people in different areas would breed animals based on what they needed. So colder climates would breed animals with longer fur or bigger bodies. And if you needed a cow that produced a lot of milk but also produced a lot of meat, you'd produce a specific breed. And then as time has gone on, as we've started getting more towards larger scale farming, we've gotten away from that. So nobody really needs a Texas Longhorn anymore because they don't produce as much meat as a different kind of cow would. So we've moved on to producing just cows and chickens and things like that are built for one specific thing: producing a lot of milk, producing a lot of meat, laying a lot of eggs. So we've gotten away from a lot of these fun heritage breeds. And one of the things that we're also doing here at the zoo is making sure that all of our animals are adapted to our cold environment. There's a lot of neat chickens that don't do well in the cold, and there's smaller bodies, they don't have as many feathers. So anytime it gets cold, you got to bring them inside, or they get frostbite or have other problems. So a lot of these breeds that we have, the Brahmas and the Welsummers and the Australorps, things like that, were built for colder climates. And they can be outside here in the winter, or they could, when it gets really cold, they can be in a building that's not heated a whole lot, and they'll do all right. Let's see, Charlie, who's age 6, he wants to know what they eat. And right now, these guys are just going to eat what we call chick starter. So we feed all of our chickens just like a processed chicken food. Chicken scratch is what we call it. We might throw in a little bit of cracked corn. But when they're little, we start them off on a chick starter. And that's just going to have more nutrients for the chicks that are growing a lot. And they are doing pretty good. The fun thing about chicks is they don't need to eat right away once they hatch, because they've had that yolk in their egg with them, and they've been absorbing it as they're growing inside. And when they get, right before they hatch, they've finished absorbing that yolk, and it provides them all the nutrition they need for a couple of days. So we provide them food right away, and sometimes they like to eat, but they don't necessarily eat right away. Let's go up and see if any of these guys are. Hatching eggs are really interesting because they'll start to pip, which means they'll make a little hole in the shell, and they can be pipped for 24 hours or longer. And they just kind of sit there and keep working on it, get in position, and then they'll start making a bigger hole. And you can see kind of a bigger hole right here. And then this can sit here for a couple hours or longer, just like that, for while the chick rests and gets ready. And then all of a sudden they hatch out. So one of the chicks that hatched yesterday afternoon, I was up here looking at it in the incubator, and it had a hole maybe about like that one that we're looking at right now, the bottom left one. And I went to run some errands, and I came back about an hour later, and it was completely out. It had hatched out while I was gone. So once they get going, they can hatch pretty quick. Whoops. That one did a huge roll. He's got a bunch gone. You might be able to see him moving. You can see he's pushing against the edge of his membrane there, that membrane inside the egg. If you've ever cracked an egg, or especially if you've eaten a hard-boiled egg, you know that membrane. He's working hard. He might be out in just a little bit. Keeper Grace has joined us. Let's see, let me get to some of these questions. April, who's 4, wants to know if any more of the eggs will hatch. We're hoping all 4 of these will. They are all pipped, and obviously that one's rolling around, and we saw him poking his beak out a little bit. So he might be out in the next 15, 20 minutes. If he looks like he's getting close by the time we end this thing, we might just hang around, and if you guys aren't doing anything, you can keep us on, and we'll see if he pops out. That'd be kind of neat. Let's see. I'll show you. These are the eggs that have already hatched. So I don't know whose is whose, but you can see kind of what they look like on the inside. There's a little bit of blood and other stuff that was in the egg with them. There's that membrane. You can see that membrane real clear against the side of the egg now. I had a thought, and then it disappeared. I don't remember what I was going to talk about. But it's just fun to watch these little chicks. They're super cute. They'll grow up really quick. So they'll be, within a week, they'll probably be half again as big. And they'll start getting their more adult feathers within a couple days.
I think you grabbed one of each.
I tried to grab one of each. And then I blanked. We have Well Summers Brahmas.
I think this one is probably a full Brahma.
Yep.
This one is probably a Brahma Well Summer cross. And this one is probably a Brahma New Hampshire.
New Hampshire. That was the breed I couldn't remember that we had. Just had a brain freeze there. Whoops. So what else do you want to say about these chicks? We talked about... Oh, I didn't talk about their egg tooth.
Oh,
Do you want to pick one up and we'll show an egg tooth?
Let's see who's got a good egg tooth, though. This one you can see on. This one you can see.
There you go. That little thing on top of its beak is called the egg tooth. And they use that to break through the shell to get out of the egg, because it's a pretty hard shell.
And then that'll fall off their beak in a couple days.
Yep. So it's not really a tooth. Birds don't have teeth, but it's just a little thing that they use to help break it out. Your mom's wondering if they're trying to keep warm. I think they are a little bit.
I think they are.
When they're this little, they'd spend a lot of time under mom. We talked about it in the last video, but when mom's sitting on the eggs, she loses a lot of the feathers on her chest. That's called a brood patch. And it's a really warm area of her body. And then the chicks will hang out under her, under that brood patch. We'll put these chicks back in just a minute to keep them warm. I'm going to focus in on this guy. Let's see, he's real close, guys. I didn't realize how close he was. How soon do you think until he'll be out?
Which
Grace?
one? That one?
This one right here.
Oh,
that's
probably
rolling
another
there.
10 minutes.
Yeah. So I'll tell you what. We'll sit here. We'll chat. If you guys have more questions, you can ask us. But we'll just hang out and watch him and see if he comes out in the next 10 minutes or so. A lot of people are asking what we're going to do with all the chicks when they grow up. So
Some of them, a lot of them, if any of the hens, we will integrate them into our chicken coop down in the goat barn. Our educator is hopeful that she can train one of them to show she can use them for programs. So you guys sign up for like an Animal Crackers or any of those day camps and stuff. We will have a chicken now for one of those, so she'll be training one of them. And then if we get too many roosters, we can only have really one rooster. We have a tom turkey and a rooster down in the coop already. And so we won't keep too many roosters. We will actually butcher them and feed them to our gators. So they don't go to waste. We feed them out to other animals.
Right. And it's not that we don't want them, it's just that if you have more than one rooster, they will fight.
They will fight and they will injure themselves.
Right. And so it's actually better.
It's safer for everybody.
We get rid of them in a humane manner, otherwise they just end up fighting to death. This guy will be out in just a second, I think. This is really cool. If you're just tuning in, we are live watching an egg hatch. Text your friends, tell them that if they've never seen a chicken hatch out of an egg, this is your opportunity. Because he'll be out. I'm afraid to even turn the camera away because I'm afraid he's gonna. He's almost there.
He's almost out. He's just gotta.
So when we started this project, we pulled the eggs. Oh, here he comes. There's a wing. Come on, little guy. You can do it. This is a pretty exhausting process. There he goes. This is a pretty exhausting process. You can see how hard he's breathing, trying to work his way out. He has good timing.
He does have good timing.
This is the one we need to give to our educator. He's going to be a perfect education bird because he's
got good timing.
Yeah.
He knows how to put on a show. Yeah, so for those of you that are tuning in late, these are chickens that are eggs that our chickens laid down in our coop in the goat barn. And then we put them in an incubator for 21 days. And one is hatching for us right now.
So we kept the incubator at 99.5 degrees and was 28% humidity or 45%.
45% humidity for the first 18 days.
Right.
And then on day 18, we keep the temperature at 99.5, but we crank that humidity up to 74. We want to keep it nice and humid in the incubator, and that helps the chicks hatch. It keeps it nice and humid in there so that it's easier for the chicks to hatch out of that shell. As you can watching this guy, it's in a very exhausting process.
All right. And he's almost out. He's gonna do it on his own. We try not to help them unless they're really struggling and have been for a while.
Yeah.
But this guy's he'll be out in just a second. Charlie says, "Go, chickie, go." That's what we're saying. Maybe if you guys if you guys cheer him on at home. Send lots of little hearts. Everybody hit your hearts. There he comes. He'll be out in 1 second.
Oh, you want to see?
There's your brother or sister getting ready.
It's probably warmer up there too.
Are they sitting by the exhaust fan? That might be pretty warm.
So we will leave this chick in the incubator until all of his feathers dry off, to keep him nice and warm in here. And then once I see him start standing up on his own, walking a little bit, that's when we'll move him to the brooder with these guys that have already hatched. But I want to make sure that he can stand up and walk so that he doesn't get picked on by the other chickens.
Right. And even though we're going to put him in a brooder with a warm light, it's not going to be 99.5 degrees, so they need to dry off real good, otherwise they could get hypothermia. Rachel wants to know when they're going to go to mom.
So zookeepers will be their mom. None of our hens are broody, which means that they don't sit on their eggs. So if I were to go stick these chicks out in the coop right now, I don't know that any of my hens in there would take care of them. And so they'll stay up here in the hospital in the brooder under a heat lamp to keep them warm until they get their adult feathers. And then once they get most of their adult feathers, then I will probably move them down to the goat barn. And I might put them out, if you guys have been here before, I'll probably put them out in the old chicken coop until they get big enough for me to introduce them into the coop. And hopefully by that point we'll have a good idea who's a hen and who's a rooster.
All of his hard work finally paid off, and she popped out. I think having all of your hearts and cares helped out.
Helped him hatch.
Brittany wants to know if we can breed these with the rooster we have.
We won't breed any of these guys with the rooster that we have because the rooster that we have in the coop right now is dad to all these guys.
Right. And then a lot of these are crossbreeds.
A lot of these are,
and that's not a bad thing. He's finally free of the egg.
Ooh, that was almost a good view of the yolk.
If he flips over on his back.
He flips over on his back. I don't know if you talked about that already.
We talked a little bit about how the yolk is absorbed, but we didn't, you don't get a good picture.
See it under his tail, maybe.
Yeah. They have fat little Buddha bellies when they're born, especially when their feathers are still really wet. And they...
I found that exhaust fan. That's where you guys are going.
That's where that yolk gets absorbed.
So yeah, that's how a lot of people wonder how if you guys order like chicks in the mail, when chicks hatch like this, they actually don't eat for the first 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
They are still absorbing the nutrients from that yolk.
So these guys will be up and walking within an hour or so,
Yeah.
probably. Doesn't take them very long to get their legs under them.
Yeah, these 3 hatched yesterday afternoon.
So these baby birds are called precocious. So birds are either precocious or altricial. And so like the baby robins that are born blind and totally featherless, those are the ones the moms take care of. Those are the altricial. I'm pronouncing that right, correct?
I think so. That's how I would pronounce it.
And then something like this is going to be precocious because it's up and walking around already. So some babies are fairly helpless when they're born and need a lot of attention from mom. Others are ready to go with pretty soon. If you think about a baby goat's up and walking around within a couple minutes, starting to stand almost as soon as it's born. But a baby person sometimes takes a couple years.
Yeah,
Up to 30 if you have one of those in your basement still. All right, he's out. Do we want to put those guys, you want to show everybody the brooder real quick?
Yeah.
We can walk over to the brooder. You got a handful of chicks.
Chickens. I'm gonna grab the necklace for you, show 'em.
Yes.
And then,
Going on a walk. Hopefully I'm not making you dizzy.
dirty sweatshirt.
So remember that all of these videos stay on our Facebook, or they also are going on our YouTube channel, Miller Park Zoo's YouTube channel. So if you're going to want to rewatch one of these, if you ever have a question, if you want to tell somebody how you watched a little chick hatch, you can do that. You can go to either our Facebook page and look it up, or you can...
How's that heat lamp look? Should I unplug it for a few minutes?
It's a little... Yeah, let's unplug it, because everybody looks red. Look like they're under the heat lamp at a fast food place. There we go. Yep, so we just had our 8th chick hatch, and then we've got 3 more that we're waiting on.
Yep.
So we could have up to 11 little chicks running around.
Yep, so this is our brooder. Like I said, they'll soak up those nutrients for the first of that yolk for the first several days, but we still offer them food, especially because I think this guy hatched on Saturday, so he's older, he's about ready to start eating food. And then their water for the first week or so, we actually have to put marbles in there for 2 reasons. 1, so that the water isn't deep, and then 2, it's shiny. And so they're baby birds. They're attracted to that shiny, and so that's how you teach them how to drink water when they're this young.
Monica was asking about the foot baths.
Oh, you saw us walk through foot baths, yeah. So we are actually where you guys have probably never seen before. We're in what we call large animal quarantine. So we're in the back of the hospital where we put new animals before we put them out with our other animal collection, so that we don't inadvertently introduce, if a new animal comes in with something, we want to make sure they have clean fecals and don't introduce anything to our current collection. So they go through a quarantine period in the back of our hospital. So that's where we're at now.
Everybody knows about quarantine now.
Right. So yeah, because we're in quarantine, we have foot baths to come in and out of these rooms to kill anything that might be on our boots.
Right. So, I wish we could figure out how to do a live stream of these guys, because that would be a lot of fun.
That would be cool. Maybe I should bring in my extra iPad and
maybe
try to figure that out.
Maybe we'll do that. If we can figure it out, we'll let you know.
We'll let you know.
Because this is very calming, isn't it? Just watching these.
I could sit here all
chicks.
day long.
All right. Grace is getting paged, so she's going to answer her radio. We'll zoom in. All right, we're almost done here.
Sounds like we have a meat delivery
Oh.
or a fish delivery.
Good. All right.
We have to sign off and go haul fish into the freezer. So just as a reminder that if you guys hit that donate button on any of our live videos this week, you'll be entered in a raffle to win this necklace. This is a necklace that I made in here. It is a small piece of the shed from our reticulated python. And then I sandwiched it in between this glass piece on this pendant and put it on a necklace chain. So if you donate to any of our live videos this week, you'll be entered into a raffle to win this necklace.
Yeah, thanks for donating, guys. We really appreciate it. And right now, I think there's only one person who's donated, so.
Yeah, so you have good chances right now.
Yes.
And we appreciate the support.
Exactly. All right, we're going to sign off, and we will see you. Shannon will be here tomorrow.
Yeah, it'll be Wednesday already tomorrow.
I think we're doing geckos. So it's going to be really cool, because there's a lot of neat stuff to talk about with geckos. So thanks a lot.